my number one movie that shaped my 2023 is The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp from 1943, directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, starring Roger Livesley. Am I saying that right? Deborah Kerr, Anton Walbrook. Quick logline from the Boer War through World War II, a soldier rises to the ranks in the British military. So I put this on my list. I mean, I obviously know of Powell and Pressburger, and I've seen a couple of their movies, not all of it. And it's a big Scorsese year with Flower Moon coming out this year, and I've heard Scorsese talk about this movie a lot. So I just was like, oh, it'll be fun to check this movie out. And I just was completely blown away by the movie. And of course, we'll get into the technical craft of it and such, which, Paul Pressburgers are masters of always. But
Hmm.
from a thematic resonance standpoint, I don't know, there's something about just watching a person just grow old in their life. Maybe this again goes back to me entering the 40s decade. There's something about that of just, life and loves and friendships and all of it that you endure and deal with and how you deal with that. Like there's something very poignant about that. But the central thing that really grabbed me about this movie was the friendship between the main lead character and the German character.
Hmm.
And in a time, especially where there's so much conflict that we are living through in multiple parts of the world right now, there's something, I don't know, very beautiful and human about these two guys, a British soldier and a German soldier on opposite sides of the war, yet having this friendship which is not without its low points or
Hmm.
judgment towards each other, but ultimately that's what stands the test of time through all these conflicts. And I don't know, it kind of underlined to me that wars and all these things can keep happening, and there's I'm not saying there's nothing at stake, that there is, but what rises up top is the humanity and the human connection. And that can be true no matter which side you're at. And so I don't know, for those reasons as well, this movie felt very resonant with all the
Hmm.
conflict that's kind of going around. But other than that, obviously this movie is just beautifully made and you're totally sucked into it. It's a long movie, but you don't, I never felt it. I've seen it twice this year already,
Hmm.
and I was totally sucked into it. But yeah, I know you had not watched this movie before, but
No, yeah,
yeah,
I had
what did
not
you
seen
think?
it. Yeah, it had always been because I love a lot of Powell and Pressburger's other films, Black Narcissus, Red Shoes, and
Hmm.
I had heard about this all the time. It's like a weird title. It was long.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. At some point I want to watch this. So I'm really glad I was forced to for this podcast, and I thought it was just um incredible, like masterpiece. Like you're watching this, you're like, this is cinema, not to sound too corny or anything like that. I absolutely loved it. I thought it actually, though, it was interesting. For about 20 minutes, I was like, I don't like this. Like, what is this movie? It's weird. I was totally not into it whatsoever. I was like, okay, great. There's gonna be a slog now because it starts off where you don't. First of all, there is no Colonel Blimp in the movie. That's
No.
not a character at all, which is what was throwing me. I was like, where's Colonel Blimp coming in? What's going on? Where is he? And it starts off with this really, it's set in the present day, like World War II. It's the present day when the movie was made in like 42 or whatever. And it's not even the main characters. These soldiers kind of like it's sort of like a madcap comedy kind of. The
Right.
humor's not working for me. I'm like, this is the soundtrack's kind of annoying. I'm like, I don't like this. And it took about 20 minutes for it to then to do the flashback into the past, and then the movie starts really getting going. And then it opens up, and then I understand what the beginning was supposed to be
Right.
for, and it works. And I'm like, okay, now I get this. And yeah, by the end of the movie, I'm like, this is one of the best movies ever made, hands down. Like I will be watching this every year, like for years to come. I
No,
absolutely loved
I'm
it. I
so
thought,
glad to hear that.
yeah, I mean, from a technical standpoint, obviously, like you said, incredible. Some of the like Citizen Kane level scene transitions and
Hmm.
passage of time stuff that I was like, this is incredible. There's a opening scene when the main character as an old man kind of falls into a pool in a Turkish bath, and the camera
Oh,
pans to like over him, like kind of like getting in a fight with this young commander over back into the backside of the pool, and then he comes out of the pool as a young man, all one shot, and now it's 40 years ago. As and that just a brilliant again, Citizen Kane level like transition there, just incredible. And the passage of time showing the game going up against the wall. So there's scenes in the movie like have to like speed through like 10 years of his life, and they show his game room Game meaning like
Mhm.
animals, not like
Mhm.
Parcheesi. And you'll see like busts of animals appearing on the
Right.
wall as you see him like working through emotions. That's sort of what it implies. Hard times in his life, he goes out and kills animals, and then you see them gradually kind of going up on the wall to show the passage of time. Just brilliant, brilliant stuff for technical level. But I just thought the theme was really powerful around he's just some this old school idea of what, British manners and war is a game, and yeah, it's bad, but there's still rules. There has to be rules. You got to follow the rules. And that he's just a man out of his time by the end of the movie where like, you can't there are no rules in war, really. And I think he kind of learns that even though he refuses to give up on that worldview, he just accepts like it's his time has passed at the end when he salutes sort of the young soldiers who are in
Mhm.
World War II because, as that German commander who was his friend is like, look, the Nazis are not, you can't play patty cakes with them. They will break
Yeah.
all the rules. And if you try to play by the rules, you will lose. And it's
Yeah.
more important that we beat the Nazis, even if we're sinking down to quote unquote their level. Like war is war. It is hell. So to try to pretend that it's not like it's some sort of contest, but like a parlor game between like the high society of these countries it never was that, even though
Yeah.
he thought it was. But that I think is a message that is really resonant too. I think even today of like no, like there no all's fair in love and war. That is an expression that is true because those are the two most important things, love and death. And
Right.
you there's no such thing as cheating in war. You have to win,
Yeah.
especially when you're up against enemies like the Nazis, which I think this movie did a brilliant job of just showing how awful like they
Yeah.
were and how important it was to defeat them at all costs, no matter what. And we can't
Yeah.
kind of pussyfoot around it, like what
Yeah.
Colonel Blimp wanted to do, or not Colonel, like has a Colonel Candy
Candy.
wanted
Yeah.
to do. He thought that this was all just like a game where we could
Yeah.
just fight for a while and then we'll be friends again and it's fine. It's like, no, it's not. And I think that message, I think to me was really, really powerful and kind of turned a lot of like what it means to be British, I think, on its head and questioned a lot of these things too, which I thought was just amazing and really resonant.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is that though that is true, the reason he ends up being friends with the German guy is because of that view that he has, So
Yeah,
there are
right, right,
kind of
right.
contradictory points of views, and maybe it's a balance that you have to win no matter what, but at the same time you can also view the humanity of the people on the other side, or try to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, I think it is complicated too in the sense of, I mean, there was even they bring this up. It's like, well, if we fight as bad as the Nazis, are we then the Nazis ourselves,
Right.
right? And yeah, there is the danger of that, and but at the same time, there is good and evil, or
Right.
there's at
You
least
have
evil. There is at
There at
least
least
evil,
evil.
and you got to, you can't let evil have any like no
No.
quarter, right? And I
Yeah.
think that was what the German who left. I mean, I love that scene too when he is,
When he comes
basically a
back.
refugee and he's talking
Yeah.
to the British guy, like, oh, let me in
Yeah.
this country. I'm not a spy. Like, I want to live here.
Right.
Look at what the Nazis did to the country that I
Right.
love. Like, he loves Germany, and that's why he has to leave because the Nazis are that terrible. I thought that whole monologue
It's
was just
amazing,
so
right?
powerful, powerfully
Yeah.
delivered, incredible themes.
Totally. And that's what I mean by the humanity, right? Like you could be on a different side by country, but it really comes more to what do you believe in? What are your
Right.
values? And
Exactly.
you can be
Exactly.
seen, for that. You talked about the passage of time. Like that's the other thing. Like I felt similarly when the movie started. The first time when I watched, like, what is happening? I don't know if I fully
Yeah.
understand. And
Mm-hmm.
but that's by the end of the movie, that's the genius of it, that nothing is spelt out to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just these motifs and emotions that kind of carry you through somebody's life, because that's how life would be. You're not going to get cards at the beginning that, oh, we are in this year now. It's
Right.
just not how life works. And then
Mm-hmm.
to top that, the other clever trick of the movie is using Deborah Kerr
Yes.
as this constant throughout all these times and different incarnations. I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Nor, I mean, there are movies like Cloud Atlas and such where the same people play different characters over space and time, but it's not that here. It's just one person. It's not like everybody is showing up in different times. It's just her,
Right.
which is just so, again, moving and beautiful and kind of poignant, that this guy who loved her just sees her, perhaps. That could be one interpretation. Or the literal one is that there are people who look like her, which I don't think is the
No.
point.
Right. Right.
But
No, they're
I
trying to
think
make a statement with that.
the
Yeah.
point is of just passage of time, and just that the people who you are drawn to and love they kind of stay with you in some form or the other. They could be a lover, they could be a lover's sister, they could be somebody who ends up working for you,
Hmm.
all sorts of things, right? Or somebody you end up marrying. And I just think that's just such a beautiful thing and quite the trick, because when you see her again and again, it takes a minute to sort of say, oh, is it the same person or is it
Right.
different? Especially the sister. When she shows up, I think they're watching an opera or some performance or
Hmm.
something, and it's like, wait, it's her? Is it her? Is it somebody else? It's just so crazy. But again, I love that like in all their movies, they trust the audience that they'll figure it out. They'll follow along.
Right.
Nothing is spelled out, nothing is sort of called out, and you just live with these people.
Right, right. Yeah, for me the second like the love portion of this film where he's in again in love with Deborah Carr, but then
Yeah.
his friend is actually confesses the love first. So he gives her up and lets his, the German friend marry the love of his life, apparently. And that's why he kind of sees her again.
Yeah.
I think also goes back to the same theme of like there are no honor or there is no rules in love and war, right?
Yeah.
And he should have said, no, sorry, like I'm in love with her. Like him giving her up was again him not achieving what he should have gotten or wanted out of his life. In the same way that with his military piece, he's pretending that there were these codes of honor in all these wars he was fighting, even though historically, like, was not the case. And I think the love piece of it also shows he's like cares more about the honor and the rules than he does even his own happiness. And he's losing out on not only then his military career at the end because he's a guy who cannot fight the real war that they need, but also he's not with the woman that he loves and he's trying to find these replacements for her and they never even had a relationship to see. I mean, there's this great line where the German friend says something about, yeah, you only knew her as an idea, but I actually lived with
Right.
her. Like I know what she was like as a real person. So you might think that your ex-wife reminded you of her, but you never actually really knew her, which is true. He never really did. He just fell in love with her in that one time in the hospital and then really never saw her again, actually, I think is what the film's implying
No,
because
never saw
never
her.
saw her again. So it's just kind of, I think he's a sort of a sad character in a way that he cares so much about these, again, rules that he's not living the life that he should be living. And he's lying to himself and thinking that the British weren't like doing these horrible things like in these wars where he's claiming, oh, we follow the rules and the enemy doesn't. That's why we always win. I mean, that wasn't true. I mean, Germans gassed people in World War One, yes, but so did the British. And they
Right.
also killed civilians. And in there's a whole sequence in the beginning of the movie where he goes to Germany to fight against some propaganda. He calls it propaganda. Oh, we didn't kill civilians in South Africa, the Boer Wars. Oh, we were all fine. It
Mm,
was that. And actually, no, the British basically
yeah.
invented the concentration camp in that war and put all those Boers in concentration camps and were
Yeah.
killing civilians. I mean, that was all known. But for him, he had to believe in this, like, oh, it's all about the rules. Which even I noticed at the end of the movie when they show the credits over this tapestry, which they showed at the
Hmm.
beginning of the movie too, but I didn't
Hmm.
really put two and two together, that he's sort of this idealized version of what
Right.
British people think they are. And this British culture, at least, right? Oh, there's it's tapestry of this medieval, he's a knight in shining armor and this Colonel Blimp guy, but because he believes in chivalry and all these things. And actually they never really believed in when they may believe in it, but they never acted that way. And that's fine. Like it's not like a knock on them or anything. No one does. I mean, it's war, right? But I think the movie's sort of attacking that ideal along with the love piece too, which is bringing it back to Deborah
Love
Carr's
and
piece. But
War.
yeah,
Yeah.
Love and War. I just really this movie is, I mean, deserves all the praise it gets. I think it's just an absolute like
It's
10 out
so
of 10
layered.
masterpiece. I'm embarrassed to say this is the first time I've seen it. That was this year. So I'm
None.
so glad you finally, made me watch it through this podcast.
Now I'm so glad you watched it. And I feel like I'll keep watching it again and again too, because I agree with what you're saying. At the same time, if you zoom out in his own ignorance or in his own sort of high and might, he still managed to have a pretty good life and
Hmm.
impacted a lot of people positively, the relationships that he's had and everything. So there's that too, right? Like the lies that we tell ourselves, whether of honor or what have you, are they bad or do they help us actually move forward even though you're living in ignorance perhaps,
Hmm.
as long as you're not causing harm, but maybe you are, I suppose. Is that okay? So it's not so
Yeah.
black and white, and I think that the movie plays with that very well.
It does. I mean, I think what the movie's trying to say though is that it's all well and good. And again, like I think you should care about the fact that British people put Boers in concentration camps, but the movie's sort
Yeah.
of saying, well, the Nazis are different. And this was fun having
Right.
this sort of idea that war is a game and we have these little rules and that's all well and good, but this is like a real enemy and we're going to be wiped out unless you just get out of the way. And I think that's
Right.
what the movie is trying to say, which I think is there is some nuance in that too. We need sort of to believe in these, maybe things are better than they are and stuff. And I think there's a
Yeah, the
lot of
pageantry of it and
yeah,
all of
right.
that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I think there is a place for it, but what this
Yeah.
movie says is there's a time and a place, and World War II ain't
And
that
there is
time. It
no
ain't
place
that
for it.
not right now. There, it
Yeah.
ain't the time. This ain't the place. Which I also,
Yeah.
agree with too. So I
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'll keep watching this movie forever. I just, again, embarrassed that it took me this long to see it.
I
Incredible.
thank Marty for it. What a great year for him.
Yeah,
And thank you for putting this on my list.
yeah.
It also kind of, I was thinking about this earlier, is with both of my two picks, like this one so far, this one of a Visitor was, and all the Greta connections and such, like it sort of is another theme of the year that film culture has become such a big letterbox culture, right? Like all
Hmm.
people at all red carpet events are talking about their four favorites thanks to Letterboxd or
Hmm.
film references and such. Like that's the culture we are living in now, which there's a lot of good to that too. Like, I probably wouldn't have watched this movie, but
Yeah.
also another side to it that is so easy to kind of just compare whatever you're doing and refer to some great work of art and use that to kind of elevate whatever you've done,
Oh,
as opposed to let the culture actually be the decider that, oh, actually, does it belong, in the same space or no? So it's sort of interesting that
mm.
everybody now is getting up and, having their take. I mean, I guess this is what this podcast is too, right? Like we are we are not exempt from that either, but it's interesting that this is kind of a big theme of the year too, at least in the film culture world.
Yeah, but I can see again like the maybe people are trying to like put their movies into a pantheon that the audience decides that, not the filmmaker.
Right.
But I do like that there is this recognition of the past and these masterworks of the
Agreed.
past and bringing
Yeah.
spotlights to. I mean, if Marty I guess hadn't said that, you went to
I haven't
saw
seen
this
it.
movie this year, which means I went to see this movie this year,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
very I was just still thinking. I saw this a couple weeks ago and still thinking about it like nonstop and want to find
Yeah.
the time to watch it again. It's that good. So yeah, I think it's an important to continue to
Yeah.
look back and
Totally.
spotlight on these films because they are so important, not only to the artist, but I think it's just important to see them because they're
Exactly.
so good.
And just to life and humanity too, like how resonant these movies are, right? Like you just said, Wizard of Oz, we're still analyzing it now
Right.
after all this time. Like
Hmm.
that says a lot.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.